to detect corruption and money laundering is a lot harder than property crime because it's a lot more complicated and it's a lot more costly for the criminal justice system. Another issue is the perception and the possible impact. The impact that money laundering has in a society is a lot higher than property crime. If they are going to make a policy to reduce crime, we come as economists and we say, let me show you what are the benefits and the costs associated with this particular policy. So I think that's some of the ways that we as economists contribute to the discussion of crime.
Good day, everyone. Welcome to another episode of FEP Talk. My name is Rimawan Pradiptyo, and I'm Associate Professor at the Department of Economics, and I'll be your host for today's episode. Today, we are thrilled to introduce our distinguished guest, Dr. Maria Elena Garcia Reyes. Before we start our conversation, let me briefly introduce our guest, Dr. Maria Elena Garcia Reyes. Maria is a senior lecturer in economics at the University of York, UK. Maria holds various esteemed positions, such as chair of the Department of Teaching Committee and the director of a summer session for postgraduate students. Her research focuses on empirical studies concerning income polarization, inequality, poverty, income distribution, and economic of crime. So, without any further ado, please join me to give a warm welcome to Maria. Good afternoon, Maria.
Good afternoon.
Thank you for joining us for today. So how are you today?
I'm really good. I'm very happy to be here. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. That's great. Okay, so today we are going to talk about economics behind criminal behavior. Crime, as we know, is a multifaceted phenomenon than the impact of the society worldwide. However, behind every criminal's act lies, behind every criminal's act lies a complex interplay of social economic factors that drive individual towards deviant behavior. Now, my question is that, what is meant by criminal behavior from the economic perspective, and how can economic factors such as poverty, unemployment, and inequality may trigger the economic's behavior?
Okay, so let me try to answer this question. Criminal behavior in economics is an action that violates the established laws and the agreed regulations in a society. This harms individuals, society, property, community. However, from an economic point of view, it more has to do with a process of cost-benefit analysis, where there is rational behavior and these offenders evaluate the risks of committing or not committing a crime. This derived by the benefits that they are going to receive or not. There are factors that affect definitely the size of crime in a society, and as you very well mentioned it, poverty. Poverty is one of them. It's very much associated because it represents lack of opportunities and resources. However, we must always remember that there is a natural rate of crime that does not depend of economic factors, but more of psychological factors that have to do with the offenders. So in a very poor society, not everybody is going to be an offender, correct? So there is this threshold of poverty. Therefore, it really impacts on criminal behavior, but it's not everything. So poverty is one of the things that affects criminal behavior. Another thing that affects it is inequality. And inequality in the sense that it represents less access to resources, and there is this feeling of unfairness and retribution. So in very unequal societies, there is going to be higher level of crime, poverty attracts property crime, while inequality attracts violent crime,
No.
for example.
Yeah.
Unemployment, as well as other economic factors such as economic growth, will affect the rate of crime. So must remember that all of these factors have correlations between them. So poverty together with inequality, together with unemployment, will exacerbate criminal behavior. But not all these factors fully explain criminal behavior.
Okay, so, but then if we see the types of crime here, there are like a range of crime that is spread across from conventional crime like a theft and shoplifting and burglary, robbery. But then at the same time, we also see the, a serious crime like corruption and money laundering or transnational organized crime. Are there any differences in terms of the source of the factor that triggered the crime itself?
Absolutely. There are overlapping factors between these types of crime, and basically have to do with individuals' psychology and the type of offense. However, there are other things that distinguish them, and it's really important for the policymaker to understand these kind of factors. So, motivation and intent. So, for a general crime like you mentioned, theft, shoplifting, and that, one of the intent is to, in the short run, have some property or have some goods.
Yeah.
However, for corruption or money laundering, the effects are more in the long run. So the intent is not to have something to eat now.
Yeah.
It's something that this investment is in the long run. So it has intent to gain also power.
Yeah.
It also has the intent not to gain property, but just power or relations, these sort of things. So that's one of the things. Another thing is the degree of complexity and planning that one of these crimes have are completely different. So property crime
Yeah.
is something that is relatively easy for someone to plan. So they seize an opportunity, oh, there is this, and they just take it away.
Yeah.
However, with money laundering and with corruption, there are these other factors that the complexity of your planning to commit this crime is a lot higher. We also think that they have to do with high levels of education, because people who commit these types of crime also have other avenues to explore, such as they're a little bit more clever than the other ones. Opportunity and access. So robbery, really, they seize on an opportunity, and the access that you need to commit crimes such as corruption and money laundering, you need certain level of power.
Yeah.
You need also certain level of loving. You also need certain level of opportunity to operate in higher spheres of the society.
Yeah.
Whether property crime, anybody can, relatively anybody could steal. However, to complete these types of crime is not so easy. Now, another main difference of this is the type of detection and investigation.
Yeah.
To detect corruption and money laundering is a lot harder than property crime.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because it's a lot more complicated, and it's a lot more costly for the criminal justice system. Another issue is the perception and the possible impact. The impact that money laundering has in a society is a lot higher than property crime.
Yeah.
And this is because it weakens institutions by committing this type of crime or corruption
Yeah.
is weakening the institutions that we live within. So the impact is a lot higher. So yes, very different types of crime with very different ways of looking at them.
Well, very interesting. So typically when we learn about, when we heard about crime, it's usually, this is people from, our colleague from Faculty of Law, for instance, or our colleague from Faculty of Sociology, in the Department of Sociology. That's typical what we heard, there is also perception about the people as well. But then now we have like a law and economics or the economics of crime. It includes the economic theory in how, and then to explain how to people doing the crime. So then the question is that, what is in your perspective, how economic theory can enrich our comprehension on criminal behavior and also the legal
If they are
policy?
going to make a policy to reduce crime, we come as economists and we say, let me show you what are the benefits and the costs associated with this particular policy. So I think that's some of the ways that we as economists contribute to the discussion of crime. Rational choice theory. That's one of the things that really enhances the perception of crime. When we are thinking about how these rational agents are taking the decision, on the one hand to commit crime, on the other hand to report crime, on the other hand to stop crime, we have this theory that is going to help us get better understanding of the rates of crime. Another thing is going to be incentives and deterrence. Economic theory is about human behavior and how to stop how to have the mechanisms to stop criminal behavior. And this would be through a set of fines or probably through a set of punishment that will deter, will increase the risk of the offenders. At the same time, it could also be in economics how to reduce poverty, how to increase economic growth, to actually reduce this kind of things. Another thing that we really think is important is the application of cost-benefit analysis into the economics of crime. For the central planner or the government, it's really important to know how much crime there is and how much crime costs to the society. So if they are going to make a policy to reduce crime, we come as economists and we say, let me show you what are the benefits and the costs associated with this particular policy. So I think that's some of the ways that we as economists contribute to the discussion of crime.
Now, it's one of the complications, particularly in developed countries, that we know that many scholars, they can, you can be an economist, but at the same time you also learn the law. Or you can be a lawyer, but at the same time you learn economics, and sometimes you even learn IT, for instance. But then this is not the case in Indonesia, for instance. Is there any suggestion from you regarding the, what is that? Do we need to have some sort of like multi-dimensional approach on how to understand crime?
Definitely. So not only you need, it would be great if the world could solve everything with economics. We would have, all of us, a job. However, we need this, as you rightly said, it needs the collaboration of all sorts of people and all sorts of specialists. So law, economists. It will also need the help from psychologists to really understand what are the triggers for offenders in order to commit crime. So we need all the institutions to have to look at this multi-dimensional approach in order to understand crime.
Okay. Now, in the era of increasing globalization and complexity, the question of the economics factor behind criminal behavior become more and more important, particularly in developing countries. with a high unemployment rate often contribute to high level of general crime, such as robbery and burglary. But at the same time, in developing countries, we also suffer from low quality of the institution, which attributable to high level of serious crime, such as corruption, for instance. Now, with the issue of economic inequality and also rapid population growth, how can we address the continuously increasing crime rate with sustainable solution? How can this solution be adapted in the current social and economic challenge in developing countries?
What a challenge we face, no?
Yeah.
Especially developing countries. Developing countries have a double burden of disease. On the one hand, we have very high petite crime due to poverty and inequality and unemployment rates, but at the same time, because the society is very polarized,
Yeah.
then we have high levels of high crimes, money laundering and corruption. So we have a double burden. It's like fighting measles and malaria together with cancer. So the system really suffers. Solutions need to be very specific to the country that we talk. We would like to have one solution for all developing countries, one solution for all developed. However, it's very specific. The general recipe includes higher level of education, always. On the first instance, education is going to help not only the offenders not to commit offenses, but also the victims to actually report offenses. It's going to help the criminal justice system. So education helps in all possible ways. We also would like the promotion of better economic opportunities, such that we reduce poverty, we reduce inequality, and at the same time, that helps. We need the strengthening of the institutions through democratic processes. So these institutions are weakened by the presence of corruption, by the presence of money laundering, and this has a very high effect on the society. So it's important that institutions are strong. Community engagement. We forget that developing countries are very collectivist. We enjoy from solidarity. So it's really is one of the advantages that developing countries have. And if we have the community involved into solving issues of crime, that would really help. We also will have the integration of technology. Technology really helps with reducing the costs of crime. So, for example, if we think about how costly is to record a crime, any sort of crime, if you, instead of having to go to the police or having high operational costs, you have online reporting, that will help. So the incorporation of technology, and developing countries have the technology, So that's something that we could add into the solution for developing countries. However, not all solutions fit the same purpose. There are differences in developing countries. While Indonesia suffers from this sort of crime, in countries like where I come from, like Mexico, the degree of intimidation is so high due to the presence of drug cartels that regardless of anything else that you do, you are kind of taken hostage. So thankfully, you don't have that problem.
We do, but it's not that.
It's not that level.
Not the level of
it's
the
not that
cartel.
level. But that is so different things will fit different countries. So we have to take into account how individual the cases are.
So from our previous discussion, we know that we highlight the effectiveness of a government program or policies in how to tackle a crime. Particularly on how to the type of sentences. That usually the common theme in Indonesia is the common types of sentences, imprisonment and fines, basically. But then, from your experience, learning from your experience, and also your work in the UK, is there any other alternative sentences that actually very effective, but at the same time is creating minimum cost to the society?
Absolutely, because actually the type of punishment that you are suggesting, it has a bigger impact on the poor. Because the poor cannot pay fines,
Yeah.
so they go to jail.
Yeah.
And the poor have little money for legal representation. So how are you going to be able to have a better system that does not discriminate by your income level? So yes, there are some other things. Community service. Community service is a good type of sentence because it allows offenders to learn from service rather than fines.
Yeah.
It is the same for them because they probably don't have the money to pay the fines, but they do have the opportunity to serve, and that would be an option. There is also something that is called restorative justice programs, and these programs emphasize on repairing the harm. And it also means that they have to work with the people they have offended,
Yeah, yeah.
with victims.
Yeah.
So it includes type of mediation, and it really helps social cohesion.
Okay.
It really helps because there is forgiveness,
Yeah.
and the repair seems to be working. Not for all types of crime. Violence against the person may not work, but property crime may work.
Okay.
Other things, probation and suspended release. So not complete imprisonment, because that has a
Negative
cost.
impact. Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
cost to the criminal justice system. There are also diversion programs. So for some type of offenses, rather than taking them to prison, maybe being treated for mental health, or maybe other alternative interventions that will help them be part of society in the future. Electronic monitoring,
Yeah.
that's typical. And there are other types of courts in the UK and Europe that are called drug courts and mental health courts. So you are not going to be, you're going to have the opportunity to defend yourself given your current circumstances. So this may help, and it's particularly important for developing countries, as punishment really discriminates against the poor. So you don't want to increase those inequalities.
Oh, that's very interesting. Now, in conclusion, based on our discussion today, that we gain insight insight from economics in tackling the criminal behavior. But then, what do you think about the step that has been taken by the policymaker to integrate economic principle more effectively into strategies aimed at addressing and reducing crime rate?
The strategies are important. However, we also rely on data collection.
Yeah, yeah.
So if the stakeholders are investing on data collection so that we understand better what's happening, that would be fabulous. We need also cost-benefit analysis to actually be able to decide whether these policies work or not. Targeted economic development matters to reduce poverty, inequality, unemployment. Perspectives for legal economic activities.
Yeah.
So that people think, well, there is a source of economic gains, that is not a criminal behavior, and collaboration across all the sectors. All the sectors should be involved, schools, hospitals, and so on, all together to work towards a reduction on crime.
Wow, that's great. Will conclude our discussion today. So there are lots of things that we can learn actually from the from insight from the economics into how to tackle crime and tackling and also preventing crimes in a country. Well, thank you very much, Maria, for the insightful talk, and to all of your viewers, thank you for turning in. We look forward to having you join us for our next episode. Thank you very much.
Terima kasih.